Hello, good evening, and welcome to this week's Loose Links as we discuss West Lindsey District Council and the A46 picking up loads of rubbish that has been sat there for years. But do we expect taxes to pay for our cleanup? Also, we talk about the big C word, no, not COVID, but Christmas. Lincoln Christmas Market has the go-ahead, but what do we think about it? And we finish on the NHS getting free tickets to go and watch a gig this year. But is that enough? All that on tonight's show. Good evening and welcome to Loose Linc. Joining me, Nicholas James, on the panel this evening is Anthony Walker.
Evening.
Sam Hitwell.
Good evening.
Rachel Penny.
Hiya.
And our signer for this evening is Darren Holt. As we talk about West Lindsey District Council bagging up a load of rubbish from the A46. But would you dare confront someone for littering in your area? Also, we discussed the big C word, no, not COVID, but Christmas, as Lincoln Christmas Market gets the go-ahead. But find out if we dare to step there. Also, we finish on the subject of the NHS getting free tickets to a gig this summer. But really, are they heroes in our eyes? All that and a lot more on this week's Loose Links. Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I've got to say, it's lucky that I'm even on the show tonight. Diabetes and heat do not go together. I was over the toilet all last night, to put it bluntly. Been to the doctors today and they've upped my insulin. I felt so ill. Like literally been from 1 o'clock this morning, been awake. So I don't know how I'm awake still this evening, but I'm here. So just a bit of information really to tell you all. Let's start on last week's polls. We have a new poll person, which is Rachel Penny. So if this isn't right, it's her fault. But the poll was last week. So the polls were: do you think the internet and technology plays a big part in creating bad behaviour? 53% of you said yes. 47% of you said no. So kind of close, very, very close. Second poll was: living in the UK, do you love our unpredictable seasons? 54% of you said no. I think I'm in that category. And 46% of you said yes. And the third poll was: the exercise hour in lockdown promoted its power to improve our mental health. So would it be a good idea to apply similar, safe and affordable youth clubs to help youth out with their mental health and avoid boredom and potential trouble? 100% of you said yes. I don't think there's one person that can disagree on that. Welcome back, Anthony. It's been quite a while.
It has, hasn't it?
How have you been doing?
Busy, but unfortunately last weekend I had the second COVID jab and I suffered from it.
Yeah. We did do a show.
I suffered on my second one. On my first one, I just slept a lot. My second one, I was head down the toilet. Yeah. I was so ill. It was unreal. So I feel you on that one.
Yeah. But I'm fine now.
We gave you a big shout out on the last show. Did you see it?
I did watch it.
Good. It's good to hear panellists actually watch the show when they're not on it. It's really good to hear that. And Rachel, you seem to be our saving grace every couple of weeks by coming on.
Well, I do, but I had 2 teeth out today and I thought I was going to look like the bride of Dracula that's coming on. I hope I don't spit anything at the screen, but I'll try to pronounce my vowels properly.
Yes,
no teeth and all that.
I'll I'll be watching it. Definitely be watching it. But let's move on to this week's topic. So, West Lindsey District and Lincolnshire County Council finally cleared some 100 bags of rubbish from the verges on the A46 Lincoln bypass dual carriageway. Some 4 months after the Lincolnites supported calls for a proper clean-up and fed up volunteers found trash over 10 years old. So 10, and I don't know how you work out how long trash has been there.
Probably from like the best before dates and things like that.
Well, maybe, yeah, but found trash 10 years old. So, panel, what I want to ask you is, are you a house proud? Does neat and tidy live in your life? Let's go to you first, Anthony.
Yes, it does, thanks to my wife. Yes, it does. I can't even leave one cup out on the draining board without getting my head bit off. So, yes, we are house proud, yes.
Have you always been like that, though, Anthony, or is it more of your wife that's like
No, I suppose I have. I enjoy cooking and everything, so I hate a mucky kitchen. And even in the workplace, if I go in the work's kitchen and it's a mess, got to tidy it up.
Yeah. What about you, Sam? Are you a house-proud sort of hyacinth bouquet sort of lady?
I won't go as far as that. No. I do like to have a neat and tidy. I have a lot of clutter I need to get rid of, but I'm like my mum. I kind of hoard it sometimes.
Are you a hoarder?
I'm not big. No, not as bad as my mum. My mum's worse.
Right.
You should see her attic. It's just like Aladdin's cave in my mum's attic. But I like to keep things tidy and in the place. Things have their place, but I'm not overly like you say, bouquet, hyacinth bouquet kind of. I'm not kind of quite like that. I put my mum at that standard, but not me.
What about you, Rachel? Are you a house proud lady?
I'm no bucket. I'm a bouquet, I'm afraid. I do like things in their place. I like clean things. And my brother, since my mum passed away and I'm in here on my own, my brother comes here a couple of days a week to give me a hand with the garden and what have you. And he says every time something's not where he leaves it, he's going to hide something of mine because I'm always tidying it up. But you can see where he's been. You can see what he's had for dinner because he likes Mediterranean food and things like that. And he's always putting fingers in his olives and you can see handprints everywhere. It's just like two children with bickering all the time, but it's quite fun. Keeps him on his toes.
But do you believe the old saying that they all say? Let's go to you first, Rachel. Let's just go to you first. Do you believe in the old saying that you marry your mum? That a wife becomes almost somebody that looks after the husband.
No. Well,
do you think it's still that old-fashioned sort of style?
No, I don't think so. I probably take after my mum in how she looked, but not her ways. She was more like my brother's like my mum, and I'm more like my dad. My dad was fastidious and he was meticulous with everything.
But did you ever feel like with your husband? Did you ever feel like you were like the role of mum within your husband's sort of life?
Oh yes, I was probably hard to live with, but I kept everything where it was supposed to be, and it was he'd probably look at this, he'd probably watch this and think, yeah, you're right there, you're difficult.
What about you, Anthony? Do you think that you've been mothered by your wife?
No. No.
He would say that.
No, to be fair, I'm a modern man. I do the cooking, I do the washing, I iron, and I even know how to work Hoover.
Wow.
Your wife has taught you, has she?
No, my mother.
Your mother. Do you know what? I've always been house proud. I've always tried to keep a nice house. I've lived in this house now for about 5 years, and it still needs some work doing to it. I'm I'm not overly impressed to welcome people into my home at the moment, only because they don't see it, like other people don't see it, but I see it. And that really affects me. Like, there's still no carpet on the stairs, and like, it's better because we had lockdown and I had time to decorate and stuff like this. This happens just to be the colour that I moved in with, and thank goodness it's a Loose Linc's colour, because I didn't have to do anything to this little. Well, I call it an office, but it's really a cupboard under the stairs more than anything else. I feel like I'm a Harry Potter when I come to do Loose Linc. It's a cupboard under the stairs that I hide away. But don't you feel sometimes, even if you are house proud, the most cleanest you become is about half an hour before a visitor comes round? Do you agree, Sam?
Yes. Although my mum, like I say, my mum, she's always got everything tidy. And then if somebody comes around, it's like, oh, move that glass, move that, and she's just like all over the place. And then I'm just like, chill, mum, it's only so and so, you know. It's. But then when it comes to here, I just kind of just like move things back. Like, oh my god, I find I'm doing the same thing as my mum. I'm like turning into my mother.
Well, I'm definitely not heading in that direction. I can tell you that for certain. But Rachel, what about you? Are you a? Oh my word! Somebody's coming round. Jump out of your seat and.
Oh, it's always the times when I want to just relax for 5 minutes, and I sit down, and think, oh, well, that'll wait for half an hour, and then suddenly, it's usually my friend who's very posh from Northampton. She appears. I think, oh my goodness me! So I'm on hands and knees. No, I'm not really. But I just blame it all on my brother. I said, oh, my brother's just left. Like a whirlwind. He's left me like this. No, not really.
But do you feel, Anthony, we are judges on people's houses? So, like, for example, I've always had this. I've always had, when I've met someone, this is really weird, I'm telling you something really weird about me, but I've always pictured in my head, when I've met someone, I wonder what their house looks like. I wonder how they live. I wonder what their house looks like. Do you think we are judges upon people and how they live? What about you, Anthony?
I would like to say no. But you always have that bit in the back of your mind, don't you, when you go in someone's house and you've never been there before, you're looking around, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nice. That's not tidy.
What about you, Rachel? Do you judge people? Do you have this obsession that I have of, oh, I wonder what house
I know what I like. So if I go to bed at night, I like to think that everything's been done downstairs, so I don't have to, because my mornings are the worst to getting up. So I like to do it when I'm a bit more able at night. But well, if I see anybody else's house and they're a bit untidy, like if they have children, I envy them, really, to think to myself that they know what life is about. They take pleasure in life rather than cleaning up a bit of dust and a bit of muck off the floor. You know, each to their own. They've got obviously not as much time as I have, but you know, people are just different, aren't they?
Definitely. Do you have this picture in your head, Sam, of what someone's house may look like?
When I first meet them, no. I think, you know, when I get to know them and get to know their personality, I kind of like try and match where, you know, probably think about it when I've got to know them, got to know their personality, then see if their house matches their personality.
Well, I've got to be honest. I'm going to put him on the spot, and he doesn't have a clue I'm about to put him on the spot. But I've known Darren Holt for years, and it's been real, like, recent. I just messaged him. He must be running now with us for about half a year now, Darren. But I just messaged him saying, would you like to be a panelist? And he wrote back to me and said, actually, I don't want to talk, but I'll sign. But I expect he's in a really posh house. I'm expecting big things when I go around to see his house, because I just think he's one of those kind of people that's just going to have, and I'm going to be like, well, you're not coming around to mine. It's not happening. But we'll see anyway. But moving on, do we expect for it to be other people's jobs when we throw our rubbish out the car window? Do we expect it to be covered in our taxes? Let's go to you first, Anthony.
Yes. Christ, we all pay council tax, and we sometimes wonder what we pay it for the service we get. Yeah, it should be up to the council to clean litter on the streets, but then it should be up to them to enforce penalties on people that do litter. You only got to go 200 yards out of my close, and we're on back roads into the Fens at Boston, and you can drive down there, there's sofas dumped and everything, and the problem is you need to find these people heavily, not a little slap on the wrist, hit them where it hurts. So, yeah.
But that kind of shocks me when you said yes. So are you, because you answered, you sort of gave two different answers then. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit now. You said yes to you expecting people to pick up the rubbish when you throw something out the car. Have I got that right? No,
Pete, no. The rubbish that is on the sides, I expect the council to sort, but I would never throw rubbish out the car. I'd take it home with me and bin it, or stop at the nearest bin. But these people need to be fined. But like this argument of Lincoln on the A46, it's up to the highways to maintain the road. And if that's cutting grass, litter picking, then so be it. We all pay enough in road tax at the end of the day.
I completely get that, but I'm not. To me, it's not the council's responsibility. It's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to have, because we would all be moaning if the council cut it all and said, right, I'm not going. I've been to Africa, as I've said many, many times, and there's no council supporting their roads, and the streets are just full of rubbish. They're full and full of rubbish. And actually, if the council stopped doing that and stopped going out and clearing it up, would it change us? Do you agree, Rachel? What do you think?
Well, I agree with Anthony, but I think that, who would pick it up if it didn't get taken by the council?
Exactly.
It would just be left there, and it would just build up and build up and build up. But I do agree that they should be fined. People should be. There's nothing more infuriating than a car in front of you at traffic lights emptying their ashtray, well, if they have an ashtray now, or emptying a little bag of litter just as they pull up to the traffic lights. You feel like getting out and giving them what for, and putting it back in the car. But would you? No, you wouldn't. But that bag of litter has to be picked up. So who's going to do it? I wouldn't get out there and pick it up and take it home with me.
I disagree. I completely, and I can't believe I'm disagreeing on this. I thought we would all agree. But I am strongly disagreeing that actually, why is it the council's responsibility? If we're throwing rubbish out a car window and not even thinking about it, not thinking where it is and stuff like that, why is it the council's responsibility to go and pick that up? It's our responsibility.
It wouldn't get picked up though, would it, Nick? It wouldn't get picked up if there's somebody's going to be rude enough they don't do it in their own area, they don't do it on their own doorstep, but if they go somewhere not on their doorstep and they throw it out the window, who is going to pick it up? So it has to be somebody's responsibility under an umbrella of somebody, otherwise it's just free for all and you're knee deep in litter everywhere. So it's got to be, so we've all got to share the load somewhere, because then these people who throw it out, they're paying the taxes as well. So
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think that if the council didn't pick it up, I'm not saying I'm for council or against. I worked for council for 7 years, but if the council didn't pick it up, that people would start to notice a difference. People, as you would say, would see more litter in the street, would not be a fan of their city anymore. Is that the change that we need to stop people from doing it in the first place? Let's go to you, Sam.
Well, where regarding litter, in the first place, it's the responsibility of the person who has the litter. The litter is their responsibility. If they're going to chuck it out, then it's obviously someone else has got to pick it up. Because obviously, a lot of stuff doesn't decompose very well, and can last. Like plastics and all that can last for years, so it's never going to go away. But I just feel like people. I grew up, when we go on holidays and that, in the car and that, we always kept our litter in. We all had our own little bag to put litter in while we were travelling, so we didn't have to chuck things out the window. And I just think in the first place it is the responsibility of the person who's chucking the litter out. But then if and when they do, obviously someone's got to pick it up. And unfortunately, that's the council, because obviously it's council owned.
I slightly disagree. Anthony, what was you going to say?
Well, the council have a responsibility to keep our streets clean and surrounding area.
But we have a responsibility to not throw rubbish out.
I know we do. I know we do. I'm all against people chucking litter. But like you say, if the council don't pick it up, who's going to pick it up? Will it stop people doing it? I very much doubt it.
But there are charities, aren't there, and churches and stuff like that go round their local area and clear up litter.
They shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to.
Exactly, but the thing is, if we just, oh, this is getting quite heated. I quite like it. If we just expect the council to do it, so we just think, right, okay. So I'm not saying you guys are litter pickers, litter throwers, but say you are a litter thrower, and you just think, and you just expect the council to come and, well, they'll come and sort it out. That expectation is always there. I feel we're sort of taking responsibility from ourselves and giving it to somebody else. Well, that's not my problem. But actually, I'm going to moan about it if that isn't cleared up. Where in the first place, what I'm trying to say is that actually, if the council did step back and go, actually, we're talking about the A46, 10 years old worth of rubbish people county council picked up. Well, actually, in the city council, if we backed off and the council didn't do that anymore, would it make people think twice of even doing it in the first place?
I don't think it would. No, people still do it, and people still complain. That's what people like to do nowadays, is just complain about everything. So they'll just do it and then still complain that it's messy.
So they've backed off and it's taken 10 years. I wouldn't want to wait 10 years for somebody to come and pick up rubbish that somebody had dropped outside my house. And so this is why it has to be done. And, we implement fining for dog fouling, do the same for litter dropping. And you don't get the council to come pick up loads of dog fouling and excrement all over the paths like you used to do.
They do.
Well, not generally. You don't. Well, probably in some areas, but generally it's quite good. You don't see as much as you used to.
Yeah.
So the fines and they've got signs to say dog fouling is like £1,000 if you're caught. So there should be the same for litter.
Well, we'll agree to disagree there. Let's slightly move on. But would you dare to confront someone for littering in your area where you live? Anthony, would you go up to somebody and tell them to pick up their packet of crisps?
I don't know, because we live in a society today whereas you get in a confrontation with someone, you don't know what's going to happen next, do you? You all have all good the meaning to say, look, excuse me, you're dropping litter, but I don't know, because there's that many people who carry weapons on them nowadays, knife or anything, and the simplest discussion can turn into the most heated argument straight away. But what I will say is, I have quite a large front garden, and we have a neighbour across the road who lets her dog out and wanders down the street. And there's a habit of messing on people's garden, and they don't bother picking it up. And I have had numerous confrontations with them over that.
It's different, I suppose, in your area. Yeah. But if we're going to talk about that, let's move on a bit with that. If we're going to talk about that, about confrontation and stuff like that, we are only human beings. So Anthony has just said that he wouldn't, because of weapons, because of damage, because of... The council are still just human beings, and we're asking these people day in, day out to go out and confront these people and say to them, so if we're not prepared to do it as human beings in our own area...
I think it also depends on kind of like the area, because a lot of areas in Lincoln have a reputation. And
so does every area.
My area, I live near St Giles, and I wouldn't dare ask any of them to, if somebody dropped some litter, I wouldn't dare, because I know that it would be a confrontation, because that's the way everybody is around this area. They just like to be, they just like to argue. They just find something small to argue with, and then it just escalates. It's just come to the point in society where you can't just say to someone, "Oh, look, you dropped your rubbish. Do you mind picking it up?"
So why do we expect the council to do it then?
Yeah, but the council picking them up, they're not confronting people, are they? It should be the law enforcement, the police. If they should be confronting people and coming down heavy on them. You start hitting people where it hurts in the pocket, they'll stop.
But you know as well as I do, Anthony, the police sources are very short at the moment. And what would you rather a PCSO do on the street? Would you rather somebody confront them about rubbish, or save somebody's safety from an abusive relationship, from anything like that? We always seem to put blame, I feel, on other people. No, we never seem to take responsibility for ourselves, responsibility for community, responsibility on looking after each other. We just expect, well, they should be doing that. And then we're the first to complain when they haven't done it. And I just think, where do we take responsibility in
we can't take responsibility for someone else dropping litter, because, I used to, I have had friends who used to do that all the time. I used to pick up after my friends. I'd be like, yeah, you know what? You need to put that in the bin. I used to do it to my friends, but a complete stranger, I wouldn't, because I'm scared for my life. I don't want to end up being another statistic of street violence because I asked them to pick up a crisp packet.
No, I'm not saying that at all, Sam. But what's stopping you? So say like you see a bunch of just black rubbish on the street. And you can see it's safe, it's just crisp packets and all of that. Instead of ringing the council, what's stopping you from putting it in the nearest bin? From just grabbing it and going, actually, I'll put this in the bin. Instead of waiting 6 weeks for the council to come out and clear this, I'll do something about it, because I live in this community and I want this community to stay nice.
If it was my community, I would do that.
Say again, Rachel.
I would do that too. It's in my community. If I just saw a bag or some rubbish on outside my frontage, yes, I'd pick it up. I wouldn't report it to the council if it was just like a bag. But on one hand, you don't know what's in that bag, it's. I think it's a completely different thing. I wouldn't expect a PCSO to go and do enforce. There should be a law, like an umbrella law, to say this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. You'll be fined if you do it, because it would cause too many problems if everybody's at free for all, dropping litter, and they're expecting the community to rally round and pick it all up, because people get heated arguments. There'll be more trouble on the streets than there is now, quite honestly.
I completely get what you're saying, Rachel, completely get what you're saying. But say, like, we are, as the UK, we are in a very, very fortunate position on funding, on money, on looking after the community and this, that and the other. What if, to say in 10 years' time, that all changes? Everything changes. We lose money. We're not the economy could still go down in the next year or so. What if we don't have that anymore? What would you do personally to change that, to keep it going, to keep it as a human being, instead of just relying on different services, because those services might not be around forever?
Well, if we're given the choice, and well, not choice, but if we're told that some services are going to be lost, then communities will start rallying round. And yes, but there should still be fines for people who go against those those regulations, those rules, because it shouldn't happen. It should not happen. You shouldn't drop litter in the street. I grew up not dropping litter. I had respect for my area, for respect for where I live, and respect for people who I live with and near. And so, but if you haven't got that, you're never going to stop it, are you?
No, I suppose so. I remember you are the fifth panel member at home. That got kind of talkative, didn't it, guys? I remember you are the fifth panel member at home. Make sure you have your say. Do you still think it's the council's responsibility to be picking up our rubbish and it's covered in the taxes? Do you think we have no responsibility of doing anything in our community, and actually it should be reported and sorted? Make sure you have your say, because your opinion is just as valid as ours. Polls will be up tomorrow by the lovely Rachel Peddy. She'll make sure they're up tomorrow morning. So please have your say. Comment, because we will read your comments out. Make sure you have your say. So guys, moving on to a bit of a light-hearted subject, but I'm not sure if I completely agree with this. We're talking about the C word. No, not COVID, but Christmas. The 2021 Lincoln Christmas Market will go ahead, subject to government restrictions, giving fresh hope to the popular festive event in the city. City of Lincoln Council cancelled the 2020 festive activities because of the global coronavirus pandemic, and to ensure the safety of visitors and the operating market. Some have questioned whether it's not or should go ahead between the 2nd and the 5th of December this year due to the pandemic, especially with it attracting around 250,000 visitors to the city, and other big events impacted, such as the steampunk event has been moved to Newark. So, do you agree that this should be back this year, or do you think it should still be on hold for another year? Let's go to you first, Anthony. What do you think about the CM?
Yes, I think it should be back this year, but providing we come out of this pandemic. As things stand at the moment, as we look today, lockdown has been extended, the easing of the final lockdown for another month. So it's hard to say what will happen. Mm. But if it does go ahead, Lincolnshire needs it. The amount of money it brings in a time where it's hit the economy very hard. Market traders, the city of Lincoln, it's extra income from that they've lost in the last year. I can't see a problem with it personally, providing it is safe enough to do it. And if it isn't safe enough, it just simply won't go ahead.
But we can never be really sure of that, can we, Sam, really? If we're completely honest, we can never be really reassured that it's safe to go ahead and do it.
No, I think it's going to be the new way of life, isn't it? Whereas I think regardless of what happens, you're going to be expected to wear a mask every shop you go in, every restaurant, pub you go in, until you're seated at the table. I just think it's the new way of life.
I think it's just the fear. Sam, what do you think? I think it's just the fear of the Lincoln Christmas Market. To me, has always been something that's quite popular, very popular, and it's just.
Well, I'm not a big fan of the Christmas market anyway. I think it's because I've lived in Lincoln all my life and I see it there every year, so it kind of gets a bit stale for me. So for me, it doesn't really affect me that much because I don't go to it. But I think for Lincoln as a whole, like Anthony said, that, a lot of businesses depend on this, but we need to look at getting back to where, getting things back on, getting things sorted. But the thing is, they can book the Christmas market, and then if things change, they can, if numbers go up and the pandemic gets worse, then they can just as easily cancel it. But it's going to be harder if they go, we could have done the Christmas market, let's scramble it together. it's going to be harder for them to scramble it together at last minute than it is to cancel it at last minute. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think the thing that fears me is it's quite a popular event and it's very enclosed, so you can't. And hopefully, social distancing rules are eased in the next month or so.
Yeah, last time I went to Christmas market, I couldn't get into the crafts tent. It was just like everybody was like sardines, and I get claustrophobic. And I had a panic attack in the middle of the big gazebo thing. I grabbed my daughter's arm and I yanked her out, having a panic attack. She's like, "Oh, I want to go in." I'm like, "I'm having a panic attack." Just in there, no, everybody just rushing by me, not noticing that I'm sat there on a wall having a panic attack with a young child. So it's like I say, it's not something that I would want to go to do again, mainly because of the closeness of everybody, and I don't think it's going to do well for the pandemic. I think it will probably spike numbers if it's going to be like it has been in previous years.
I'm sure that if it did go ahead, there would be restrictions in place for the amount of people that attend.
Probably have the stalls spaced out.
I can't imagine it'd be like it's been every year, a free for all. I just don't think they'd allow that to happen.
But could you really police the Christmas market? Honestly, the amount of people.
So many people go through that. It's going to be hard to do.
Do you think Rachel? Do you think there's going to be people there saying you've come back later? Actually, you can't come through this area at the moment because it's too full.
I think I didn't realise it was actually going ahead until you told me today, but I haven't really looked into it. But I think it's going to have to be rejigged in as much as it might be a different route, or you won't be herding people through the same way as it has been done before. I'm not too sure. I don't think it can go ahead the same as it has been previous years. But it wouldn't be safe, would it? But then if the COVID jabs are supposed to work like they should do, I know we've got a new variant coming through, but we should be a lot better off than we have been. So that's what's given people a lot of confidence to go out, and that's what's given the council's confidence to actually put it on, I suppose.
But in a sort of way, I've been, because I'm in the vulnerable category. I hate using the word, but I am. And I'm happy to go out at the moment in the fresh air, and I'm happy to go to work because I've worked with the people that I've worked with all the way through the pandemic. But if a mate said to me tomorrow, "Do you fancy going to the pub for a meal and a drink?" I still don't know if I would enclose myself with people yet. I still don't know if I would step that far. And when we talk about Lincoln Christmas Market, because I just don't know, I can't think in my head how they would police it, how they would go. You've got thousands of coaches coming in day after day after day, and those people so say like people come from Grantham and Grimsby and all over the place, and then told at the door, actually, you can't come in today, or you have to wait an hour. How's that going to work? Do you know what I mean? You can't say yes to somebody and no to somebody else. Do you get what I'm saying? What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I do get what you're saying. But the other option is if you're going to limit things, then why not put it on, I don't know, for argument's sake, over the space of a week instead of one weekend?
Yeah.
I don't know what it brought. Let's say 2 years ago over the weekend it brought 250,000 people in, then obviously you can't expect it to do it this year because you're just asking for trouble. Yeah. But if you do 250,000 people over the space of 5-7 days, it becomes a different story, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Do you agree, Rach?
I do. I think, I think you have to be limited to the amount of people coming per day. You have to limit the coaches. And I think it's just going to have, it's all been new for everybody, all this pandemic. We've all had to learn different ways of life. So I think if somebody wants to come, it'd be like any excursion. It'd just be all limited and rationed out, I suppose. And we all have to take it baby steps, don't we? get back to normal.
So do you think you would be stepping onto the Christmas market floor, Rachel?
No, because I can't get up the hill anymore. I could 2 years ago before lockdown, but but I don't know. A motorised golf cart probably, or something like golf buggy.
I can lend you my mobility scooter if you want.
Thank you, Sam, but it's slippery slope. That's it, slippery slope.
But do you think for Lincoln people that live, and I'll speak about this first, live in Lincoln day after day, it's exciting or it's just a bit of a nuisance? Now, to me, it's a nuisance. I can't get around Lincoln very easily. I can't move around. I can't. And the other thing that makes me question, and I get it, and I wanted to ask you guys about this evening. So they do this big Lincoln Christmas market every year, but they put it in the most smallest of places in Lincoln. So it's round the cathedral, it's round the castle, and I get why it's there, because historic places of Lincoln, you get to see it, you get to do this, that and the other. But we've got a massive town centre that's right next to the bus station and the train station. Miles of space outside the Wilkinson's area around the town. And I just don't feel it would be as enclosed and as impacted if we did it down the south end of the city than the north end of the city, because the thing is, there's nothing stopping from people walking up the hill and having a look at the cathedral. There's nothing of that. What do you guys think? Do you think it should be in a bit of a different place than it's in there? Go on, Rachel, I can see you nodding your head.
No, because that's the point of going up into the Vale, the cathedral quarter. It's all Dickensian. It's wonderful. It looks Christmas. Nobody want to come and see the front of Wilkinson's, would they, in the bus station? I wouldn't. And quite honestly, Nick, you're a bit of a Grinch, aren't you? It's a nuisance. It's 4 days 3.5 days of the year, and it doesn't go on most years because we have a bit of frost and it stopped. So stop the misery. And you're only young, so how many times has it been going on since you've been around?
Well, 20 years now.
Honestly.
You see, it actually started the same year I was born. So so back then, Lincoln was totally different.
How old are you?
I've just turned 39.
I'm the oldest here again. I'm the oldest here again.
So back then, Lincoln was different. It has a whole lot. Everything was so different, and everything was about uphill. Everything was about trying to get people into the castle and to the cathedral. But since then, they've started developing downhill a lot more. So I can understand why you'd say, bring it downhill a bit more, because they've done all the Cornhill's all been done up. All of Cornhill's been done up, and that's all done nicely. And, and St. Mark's is all was done up a few years ago. So, why wouldn't they want to show that off and have some of the market in those areas?
Well, the thing is, you can come to Lincoln all year round now and see that. You can come and see the cathedral whenever. You can come and see they don't close, they don't move, they're there forever and a day. And I just think...
Say that about any other place that has a Christmas market, though.
Well, I just think it's too enclosed, but that's just my opinion. I really do feel like the Grinch of the panel tonight, but that's just my opinion. See what you guys think. See if you think it should still be uphill or move downhill. Right, I'm going to put Lincoln on the map a little bit, and maybe not for a good reason. So get ready for this question panel. Do you think it's an insult to steampunk being moved to Newark? Does it feel like Lincoln will only do what suits them?
I don't think, to be honest, if it goes really well over in Newark, I don't think we'll get it back. I mean, I've been to a few of the steampunks. I mean, I love steampunk. I absolutely love it. But I won't be going to Newark because I don't drive. And I can't imagine getting on the train fully done up and everything. I wouldn't, I just couldn't do it. So I won't be going to this year's because I just can't get out there.
But it does seem like, doesn't it? It does. got to be really careful where I tread here. But it does seem like that steampunk is a community, and that's what I'm saying. It's a community. It's very, very much a community. And I would go and have a look round each year. But it does feel a bit like you don't really fit in, so we don't want you. And that's how, when I read that they moved it from Lincoln to Newark and moved it out of Lincoln and said, I don't want this in Lincoln anymore, I did feel like it was almost like, well, if your face fits, you can be here. And if your face doesn't fit, you can't be here. Do you agree, Anthony?
I don't know. I don't know a lot about it, to be fair. Did they give a reason why they're moving it out of Lincoln?
No, they've just said that it's moved from.
Apparently, it doesn't meet the COVID restrictions in Lincoln.
How does the Lincoln Christmas market meet COVID restrictions?
Yeah, that's what
I know.
Yeah, how does Christmas market?
That's annoyed me.
Yeah,
I'd much rather go to steampunk than the Christmas market.
What about you, Rachel? Do you think it's a bit like, we don't really want you here, let's move you on?
I'm not really bothered, actually, because I don't get it. This Victoriana crossed with...
It's kind of Victorian
yeah.
Edwardian era crossed with gadgets.
I know, but I saw this hat with a baby's head sticking out and a googly eye.
There are loads of different types of steampunk.
I know, it's very clever. It's very clever, but I just don't get it, and I don't understand it. It looks a bit Frankensteinish and a bit. I think it looks horrible, actually.
Well,
I don't like.
That's my point, Rachel. My point is, that's exactly my point. Is that because they don't fit the normality and what society expects, we're afraid of it. We're nervous about it. And if we can go back, this can be covered in so many areas. If we look at LGBT, I think LGBT is something that's alien to people. So I feel like sometimes homophobia, transphobia, all of that is because people aren't educated and they don't know it enough.
I'm not educated.
Well, for example, I know it's changing in, so if anybody wants to shoot me down, that's fine. I know it's changing in the curriculum, but if it's spoke about from the beginning, from being a young age, to men being together, to women being together, someone being transgender, someone being a drag queen, all of that was just normality into life, I don't think we would have a problem. And I think that's the same with steampunk, that actually people need to be educated why people are doing this, why they feel part of a community. And then we wouldn't blink an eye of thinking about people. It's almost that people looking different to us, we don't like. And actually, we need to broaden our horizons here. We need to think about it. We need to talk about maybe people being that little bit different and us accepting it. But I think Lincoln's leading by bad example at the moment, really.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like the whole cosplaying and the Comic-Cons and all of that. A lot of people are like, why do you do it? It's like, because it's fun. And it's the same with steampunk. I enjoy it. I think it's fun. I find it interesting. I love all the costumes. I mean, half the costumes I wouldn't even be able to do myself. I would definitely need help for. But, I'm thinking, no, I wish I could do that. And I love doing it. But each to their own. I think it's just because you three don't particularly like doing that kind of thing doesn't mean that I don't. Each to their own.
That, Sam. I've not said that.
You just.
I said I don't like it, but it's my opinion.
Then he agreed with you.
It's like anything. You have an opinion to what you like, what you don't. I don't think you can, like Nick said, I don't think you can liken it to somebody's sexuality, because I get that, but I don't get up dressing up with all the regalia that they've got on. But I think it's clever. I think it's very clever and imaginative, but it's not my thing. It's just like, does somebody want to go running marathons and things like that? like said a signer there. It's his choice. It's your choice. It's their choice. It's everybody's choice to do something different. But it's dressing up in a very clever way. But I don't think it's something to be educated about, because I'm not interested.
What were you going to say, Anthony?
I was going to say the bigger picture of all this is they're moving it out of Lincoln because they're not ready for COVID. Then they put a Christmas market there. 5 miles outside Lincoln, you've got Lincoln Showground.
Yeah.
Christmas market. Why couldn't you turn that into a winter wonderland?
Oh, my word. I would love that.
Plenty of spaces for people to wander around, coaches to be parked. And I know you're going about the old tradition of the cathedral quarters and the castle, but COVID has happened. COVID is unique. Hopefully it's a one-off. It's changed the world. You're not going to be able to do things you did 2-3 years ago. But Lincoln has that space, the showground. Steampunk could go there.
I'll tell you something, Anthony. You need to go for council leader this year, because I will be voting for you. I will.
But this goes
sensible.
back to
Sensible man.
people. It goes back to educating people. The world has changed. I can remember when I was born 40 years ago, you looked at a 40-year-old person, they wore cords, a shirt and tie. You see a 40-year-old today walking around in denim shorts and a T-shirt. The world has changed, it's moved on. And unfortunately, on these councils and committees, there's too many dinosaurs still sat there who don't want to change.
Yeah, I agree.
20 years' time, they're not going to be here.
No. And you are right by saying that, because I, as you know, I've said many times that I have a faith, I'm a Christian and I go to church. And years ago, that's exactly the same thing, Anthony, that people were expected Sunday best. So shirt, tie, trousers, all of that. It doesn't happen anymore. You just turn up in what you turn up in, and you're accepted as that. Go on, Sam.
I think there's another thing about England as a whole is the fact that a lot of England is driven by traditions, old traditions and that. I mean, look at Westminster and the House of Lords and all of that. They have a whole tradition of where the speaker coming in and all of that, don't they? So, I think a lot of the traditions kind of need to be tweaked and to move with the times. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to look at these traditions and think, are these serving a purpose? If they are, can they be tweaked? Can we tweak them to make it better and things like that? But a lot of England, a lot of the UK, we just have a lot of traditions which we just don't want to get rid of for nostalgia reasons.
And we seem to, as a city, repeat. So if we have something, it's like any group, really. I'm part of a social committee at church, and if something happens good, we repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And what I think I try and say all the time is, it gets boring. It gets boring if we just repeat stuff year after year after year. So change it, tweak it, lay it off one year, do something different. And I think that's how cities, more than Lincoln and more than Newark and more than big cities, are developing, because they're changing all the time. And Lincoln are doing good. Talk about Lincoln University a couple of years ago, 10, 15 years ago, it was nothing heard of. No, it wasn't a big university at all. And we are massive now on the scale. For Lincoln, we are absolutely huge as a university. But that does lead me on to my third question, not first. Do you think inclusion and acceptance still has a long way to go in Lincolnshire?
Yeah, I think it does in all areas of life. There's always going to be some draconian person who's just going to go, no, in my day you won't have this, no, in my day you won't have that. And there's always going to be someone who will try and bring it down. There's always going to be someone that's just going to go against it because they've got different views from way back when, again, to do with traditions and that.
Let's talk to the older members on the panel. I'm sorry to cut you out, guys, but let's talk to the older members on the panel. Let's go to you first, Anthony. Are you a person that would say, well, in my day, we did it like this?
No, I don't like to think I'm that old, to be fair.
I've only ever done that once. I've only ever done that with a friend once. I turned around and went, you know what, when I was your age, and I went, no, I'm not going to finish that question.
Go on, Anthony, carry on, go on.
I don't think I would. I'm quite happy to accept change. Change normally it happens for a reason, and most of them are good. It's hard. You can't even compare anything 10 years ago to today. Technology moves that fast. The world's changing fast. As to religion, sexuality, then yeah, I accept it. If someone, I don't know, whatever religion they are, if that's it, that's their choice. It's people's choices. And for the example, it's like the gay community. I don't have a problem with it. My sister's gay. And
my daughter is.
And people ask me and they say, oh, why don't you bother? I couldn't give a monkeys. If my sister's happy, I don't care what she does in her own house. I'm not bothered if it's male or female. It's nothing to do with me. At the end of the day, I want to see my friends and my family happy. And if that's what makes me happy, I'm happy.
100%.
Things have changed, haven't they? But if we had this conversation, I don't know, 50 years ago,
different story.
We'd be locked door.
Yeah, different story. Well, I certainly would. I certainly would be locked door. Throwing away the king.
And we go back to our heated topic about Meghan and Harry. And
Anthony, let's not go down that road.
Just quickly. But it's how things have changed. 100 years ago, they'd been hung for treason, like we said back then.
True.
And things change at such a fast pace. You've got to keep up with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's go to our youngest member on the panel, Rachel. Let's talk to you. Let's talk to you about. Would you ever say, well, in my day?
No, because I still feel like I'm about 17 or 18. Shush. But no, I've come from a family that accepts everybody, really, any creed, any colour, as long as somebody doesn't do any harm to you, that everybody's accepted. Doesn't matter what the sexuality is, because if somebody's born a different way than they appear, it's not their fault. They have to live the life the way they were born, the way they believe they are, the way their makeup is, the way they've been created. And nobody has the right to tell anybody that they should be something when they're not.
No.
And it's an easy way of life. It's harder to be the other way. It's harder to be non-accepting.
And
I think.
Hard, isn't it? Yeah. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we're heading in the right direction. Maybe we are heading that way. We, as you know, this month is celebrating of Pride this month. We've decided not to do a show because we are on Saturday the 28th of August on Riverside Pride. We're live on stage and we're talking all about Pride in that show. So please come along to watch our views and our debates on that. So let us know what you think. Do you think Lincolnshire has got a long way to go for acceptance and inclusion? Do you think Lincoln has booted out the punk, steampunk, because it doesn't suit us as a city? And do you think the market should be back this year? Are you a person cheering it on or shooing it away? Make sure you have your say. Our final subject this morning is the Wild Heart and the Big Country will co-headline Cleethorpes Rocks NHS, a one-day live music festival this summer with free tickets available for all NHS staff. The big thank you concert event will take place at Mederian Park between 2 and 10:30. Wow, quite a big party on Saturday the 31st of July with lots of bands included. Panel, it did get me thinking, do you think the NHS has been given enough credit this year for what they have done? Oh, silent.
What do you mean?
Do you think we've given them enough credit and enough thank you and enough of our appreciation for actually putting their lives at risk?
So they don't deserve this as well? Is that what you mean?
No, what I'm saying is they do deserve it, but do you think we should be doing more to thank them? Do you think we should be...
It's ongoing, isn't it, for them? It's completely ongoing, and yeah.
But then it's the same for anyone else who works on the front line.
Say again, Anthony?
Then it's the same for anyone else who works on the front line, isn't it? It's a unique opportunity. I won't say opportunity, a unique event that's happened, isn't it? It's a learning curve. But then we should be thanking nurses and doctors every day of the year, regardless of any pandemics. We should.
Do you agree, Sam? Do you think we've done enough?
I don't think we could ever do enough to say thank you to them, because they put their lives on the line to treat everybody. Some of the doctors and nurses have even lost their lives to COVID. I mean, how do you thank them? There's no way of thanking them. They gave their lives to fight this pandemic. So I don't think there's enough that we could do to thank them for what they've done.
It
is.
Because
I mean, those that have passed away, I mean, would their families be going to instead of them, in lieu of them?
Well, it's not just about that, is it? What we forget is all that we see when we're poorly as a doctor. But actually, there's a documentary on BBC about, it's just called The Pandemic or something, and it takes right back to China, and it goes into UK hospitals where UK's nurses and doctors are saying it's in China, it's never going to reach us. But we forget, actually, their lives have completely and utterly changed. So for them to go in and help you and make you better, they've had to isolate from their children. They've had to isolate from husbands and wives. They've had to disown their family for nearly a year and stay in a hotel room where they are just suffering mentally themselves, because all they're seeing is dying people every day. And I think we forget when we see a doctor how much they actually go through. Do you agree, Rach?
Yeah, because I had a friend when we first went into lockdown. She was on chemo, and I'm critically vulnerable as well. And she came to stay with me because her husband was a paramedic and he was on the front line, and so he lived by himself. And that was for about 6 months until a few things were restricted, where he had to go for an operation or something. So he was able to isolate himself so she could go home, so she was safe. But I saw what it did to those two. Now they're a married couple, and every day when he went into work, he didn't know what he was going to face. Now he was out and about. Now when these doctors and nurses are in a hospital and they're confronted with the pandemic right in the face, they were overworked in the first place on the hours that they were doing. They couldn't go home. They were sleeping in the hospitals. And they had no choice. You have no choice when you've taken a job like that. It's more of a vocation, because you don't expect a pandemic to come up like we have had. And they deserve all the respect that anybody could give them, and more.
But there is one nurse fighting back. So there's one nurse fights back on saying she is not on the front line and does not feel she needs to be praised for a job that she's been paid to do. She doesn't like the association on being on the front line, because it takes right back to army days and being on the front line. So she doesn't like the saying a hero, because she's just doing a job that she's paid to do. What do we think about that? Come on, Anthony, let's go for you first.
I can understand that. Yes, that's the profession they've chosen to do. and it's a job they've chosen to do. And the argument is, at the end of the day, if you're not happy in your job and you don't like it anymore, you do something else. But her saying it's like the soldiers in the wars on the front line, that was their job. It was. And unfortunately, how things have moved on, is this the new, what war is going to be like? Instead of invading each other's country, is it going to be viruses appearing?
Yeah, exactly. But do you agree, Rachel? Do you think she's got a right to say that?
Well, she's got a right if that's her opinion, yes. But not every day probably when she signed. Would she have signed up to be a nurse if it was recent and in the pandemic time, or was she a nurse before pandemic? Because I know what I would do. I'd be a bit of a coward, and I wouldn't sign up to go and help in pandemic time if I had a family at home that needed me as well. And so if you're a nurse already on the front line now, and as Anthony was saying, it is like a war scenario because it is a virus war, then I find it very difficult because I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave my family and sign up for a job like that. It's a difficult thing. And yeah, it's just the same. It's similar to, but it's a home. We don't think about it when you go to war in Afghanistan or Iraq or the Falklands. You don't think about it because you're not seeing it on your doorstep. No. When it's come home to you now, it's real.
That's you know, and that's what I've said from the start. When I was in school and I learned about World War I and World War II, it was all just a story to me. It was never really real. It was just something that I heard. But actually, this is something that we've all lived in and experienced. And I think it's a lot better to do that than to hear about. If you think about it, it's going to be in history, in education, isn't it? The COVID time. It's going to be talked about for years and years and years. But
2020, the year we don't talk about.
Yeah, basically. Do you think though we should be giving a big pay rise to everyone that's worked in the NHS over the last year?
They should be getting more than they have been given.
Yeah.
Definitely.
100%.
More than the 1% that they were given. That was just pitiful, I think.
And the big wigs got all the money in the pay rises. I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
Don't agree with it at all. That brings us to the end of this week's Loose Links. The reason I'm ending it is I've got a little bit of information to tell you about next week. Thank you for tuning in this week, making sure he's always got a smile on his face and he's never got his hands crossed. That's Anthony Walker. The person that's amazing cake baker, and I've recognised it this week, that's Sam J. Hitwell. And the person that's always the oldest on the panel, that's Rachel Fenny. And our signer for this week is Darren Holt. Thank you very much, Darren Holt. Join us next week as we celebrate a special day in a very, very different way. So as you know, Father's Day arrives soon. But here on Loose Links, we recognise not everybody has a father figure in their lives. So we celebrate parenting. So next week, join us as we are joined by loved ones to have debates on now generation and their generation. So for pure example, Rachel Penny will be with her daughter-in-law next week, talking about different topics that we have. I dare brave share it for the first time ever, and I convinced myself I was never going to do it, but my mum joins me on Loose Links for a discussion that could get quite heated, and Claire Browning-May joins us with her daughter to talk about stuff in her world and in Claire's world. And for one special week only, because it's a special show, we have Darren Holt again next week. So make sure you join us for a lot more chat, a lot more conversation. Thank my panel for this evening, Sam J. Hitwell, Anthony Walker, Rachel Penny, and Darren Holt. Join us next week for that very special show. Do not miss out. Good night, everybody.